class 5, and now I'll start science class. And in your previous class we already started the chapter 4, skeletal and nervous system. In our previous class we already learned about the T's skeletal system and different organ systems too, and we learned that different organs makes a particular organ systems to the skeletal system. We learned it in our previous class that it is consist of 206 bones. I'm telling you again, look at the chart and it is clear to you, I think. There is skull, different parts of skeletal systems: a skull, number 2 ribs, number 3 backbone, and limbs. The skull, which is the function of the skull, it protects our brain. And there are 2 sets, 14 in forehead and 8 in backhand. They are fixed bones, and the lower jaw is movable only. In our skull, the lower jaw is movable only. And next is ribs. There are 12 pairs, and the ribs protect heart and lungs. And rib cage, ribs also called as rib cage, and the rib cage, there are actually last 2 pairs. There are 12 pairs, and last 2 pairs floating are called as floating bones. Always remember. And the sternum is the frontal bone, which is the front in the front side. There is sternum, a particular bone. And next is backbone. Backbone consists of 33 small bones, and it protects our spinal cord. And backbone is also called as spine or vertebra. You know that spinal cord is very much important for our body. And next is limbs. Limbs are, there are 2 parts in limbs: arms and legs. And in arms, humerus is a bone which is in upper arm, and radius and ulna in lower arm. There are 2 bones, radius and ulna in lower arm. And in legs, femur bone in upper leg. It is the longest bone in our body, femur bone. And next is tibia and fibula in lower part. Okay, so this is the skeletal system, consists of these 4 parts: skull, ribs, backbone, and limbs. And we already learned it in our previous class, and today we will learn about joints. Actually, I am telling you that joints, there are several types of joints. I am showing you through a chart. Firstly, okay, and the joints. Sorry. Movable joints and immovable joints. There are 2 types of joints. Okay, first is movable joint, and the other is immovable joint. Okay, movable and immovable joint. And there are some parts in movable joints too. It is hinge joint, next ball and socket joint, next is pivot joint, and the 4th is gliding joint. Today we learn about this part. So joints have two types of joints are there: movable joints and immovable joints. And in movable joints, the subparts are hinge joint, parts of movable joints, hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint, and gliding joint. And there is no subdivision in immovable joints. Okay, next I'll tell you about today about muscles and their movements. There are two types of muscles: voluntary muscles and involuntary muscles. So let's start and go to the book, and I'll just discuss about the these joints and muscles. Okay. So here are joints. The meeting point of bones is called a joint. The joints help us to bend, twist, and turn. A joint has strong tissues called ligaments. Always remember ligaments. Joint has strong tissues called as ligaments, which hold the bones together. Ligaments are strong, elastic tissues. There are two types of joints: movable and immovable. Firstly, movable joints. The joints that help in the movement of our body are called as movable joints. The joints which we can move them, this type of joints are called movable joints. For example, arms and legs. There are four types of movable joints in our body. They are hinge joint. It is like the hinge of the door. You know the hinge of the door? How it moves? Just like that, hinge joints. They helps the bones to move in one direction. The elbows, knees, fingers, and toes have hinge joint. Try to understand with moving your arms and just elbows, knees. Just move them and try to understand how they move. They can only move forward and backward, isn't it? Yes. Now, ball and socket joint. The shoulder and hip region have the ball and socket joint. In your shoulder and hip region, they allow movement in all directions. This joint helps in the maximum movement of the body. One bone ends like a ball, while the other ends like a cup. They fit into each other. These are ball and socket joint, and it lies in our shoulder and hip joint. Just a ball, like a ball and cup. A ball moves within the cup, and we can move our body parts in this way. Next is pivot joint. The joint which joins the skull to the backbone is the pivot joint. You can see here, pivot joint, which joins the skull to the backbone. Here is the skull and it joins to the backbone. It is pivot joint. It enables the head to move up, down, and sideways. We can move our heads up, down, and sideways, you know. It is the pivot joint. And now is gliding joint. This joint is found in the wrist and ankle. Whenever we twist our wrist or ankle, it is the gliding joint which help us. It allows us to bend, twist, and turn. Now, immovable joints. The joints that cannot be moved are called immovable joints. The joint of the skull, the joints between the rib cage and the breastbone are immovable joints. You cannot move this type of joints. They are immovable. So that they are called as immovable. And the skull joints and rib cage, etc., immovable joints. Now, I am telling you about the muscles and the
movement. The soft and stretchy band of tissues are called as muscles. Bones always bone we can move our bones with a help of muscles. Without muscles we can't do that. There are more than 600 muscles in our body. We have 206 bones in our body, and as well as there are 600 muscles in our body, and they perform different functions. They tighten and relax and help our joints in movement of our body. Muscles are attached to the bones by the strong fibers which are called as tendons. So muscles are attached to the bones by strong fibers called tendons. The different types of muscles found in our body are voluntary muscles, and our arms, neck, shoulders, and legs have voluntary muscles as they are under our control. The muscles which we can control, these are called as voluntary muscles. And more voluntary muscles, the neck, arms, shoulders, and legs have voluntary muscles because we can move them easily. And involuntary muscles next. Some muscles help in our breathing, movement of food in the stomach and intestines, and flow of blood. They work on their own and we can't control them. So that these are called as involuntary muscles. So we can't control involuntary muscles, always remember. They are also known as smooth muscles. So involuntary muscles are also known as smooth muscles. Next is cardiac muscles. The muscles of the heart are called as cardiac muscles. Muscles of the heart are called as cardiac muscles. They pump blood to all the parts of our body and are involuntary in nature. So, cardiac muscles are also involuntary too because we can't control them. The muscles which we can control, these are called as voluntary muscles, and the muscles which can't control, they works as their own in their own way. They are called as involuntary muscles. Okay. So now I'm telling you about nervous system. So the nervous system helps all the parts of our body to communicate with each other. Nervous system is the communicate. They communicate with each other. Our body parts communicate with each other through the nervous system. The brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves constitute our nervous system. You can see here in this picture, brain, spinal cord here, and nerves. This blue you can see here, these are all our nerves. Our brain has two sides. Look here, our brain has two sides, left and right side. Interestingly, our left side controls our right side of the body, and our right side of the brain controls our left side of the body. Now, look, brain firstly. Brain is the main organ of the nervous system. It sends and receives informations from all parts of the body. There are three parts of the brain. Cerebrum, you can see it is cerebrum, and cerebellum. This part is called as cerebellum. And medulla, this green part you can see here, it is called as medulla. So firstly, cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest and the main part of the brain. It controls our sense organs and is the center of intelligence. It controls our total sense organs. This is vital part very much. It controls our voice and also helps us to think, learn, remember and recall. As we learn this, study this chapter, this part is all help us. This part helped us. Okay. Next is cerebellum. It is an egg-shaped. Look here. It is an egg-shaped structure situated below the cerebrum. Below the cerebrum, there is cerebellum. It enables the muscles coordination and the balance of our body. It enables the muscles coordination and so the balance of our body. It controls our balance of our body. And next is medulla. You can see it is also called as brain stem. The medulla is a stem-shaped structure which lies at the bottom of the brain. It controls and coordinates the movement of the involuntary muscles like breathing, heartbeat, etc. So, this part, always remember, it controls whole of our body. This is the central system. The control system of our body is our brain. Okay. Next is spinal cord. Here you can see the thick cord that extends down from the brain stem to the lower end of the backbone. From brain stem to the lower end of the backbone is called the spinal cord. It is enclosed in the spine or the backbone and connects the brain to different parts of our body through nerves. It is responsible for the transfer of information between the brain and the rest of the body. The brain controls our body through this spinal cord and we can react to in this way. And next is nerves. The long thread-like structures that carry messages between the brain and the other parts of the body are called nerves. The nerves that extend from the head and the neck join the brain directly, while the nerves from the other parts of the body are connected to the spinal cords. So there are types of nerves are there in our body? There are three kinds of nerves. These are sensory nerves, motor nerves, and mixed nerves. Sensory nerves are nerves which bring messages from the sense organs to the brain or the spinal cord. Sensory nerves bring messages from the sense organs to the brain or the spinal cord. What are the sense organs? Eye, nose, ears, skin. These all are sensory sense organs. And motor nerves, these nerves carry commands from the brain to the muscles of the different organs. From the brain to the muscles of the different organs. And these nerves bring messages from the sense organ to spinal cord and brain to the different organs. Next is mixed nerves. There are some nerves that carry messages from the brain to the muscles as well as send messages from the sense organ to the brain. These are called mixed nerves. They do the work same as sensory nerves and motor nerves, so that they are called as mixed nerves. Okay. So this much for today's class, and read this part very thoroughly and try to understand as I discussed today. And in our next class, I'll tell you about the reflex action and the sense organs of our body. Okay. So take care and bye till our next class.